Hi, this is Molly with Molly Q Creates and scrapandtime.com. I'm going to show you how to create this graduation card. So you can customize it with your grad school colors. You open it up. It has the sentiment congratulations, and it has a pocket to hold a gift card, or you can insert a check or cash. But grad wouldn't love it. The file for the card is available for download at mollyqcreates.com in the free resource library. The resource library is password protected, but you can request the password and it'll be emailed to you. Keep watching and I'll show you how to put it together. Okay, so now that you've downloaded the design, we're going to open it in Design Space. But before we do that, I wanted to show you a file that is included in the Grad Card compressed file. So let's open those files. And now you see that you have it in a variety of formats. We need the SVG for Design Space. However, there are two other files I wanted to point out. There's About These Files that gives the license information and any information about the file and how you can use it. There's also this Open First DIY Grad Card Design Notes. Now, if you have any questions about the pieces in the file, open up the Design Notes. So it shows you this is how the file is going to upload. You're going to get these pieces, and they're numbered as to what each piece is as part of the card. So for this design, pieces 2 and 5 are duplicates. Or actually they're not duplicates, but 2 is if you just want a panel, just a regular panel on the inside of the card. 5 has, you can see this little line that pops out. This one has a little flap that you can fold up and create a pocket. So you only need 2 or 5 for the file, for the card, depending upon whether or not you just want a standard card or whether you wanted to have the pocket to put a gift card, a check, or some cash. And then over here you have 7, 8, and 9, which are the sentiments. 7 is the outline sentiment. You can simply attach that to your panel, or you could put it on top of number 8. Number 9 is individual pieces. So those you can cut it out. You can use those individually. You can put them on top of 8 or 7. You could put them behind 7. You can do some different manipulations with these because these are cut out individually. The other note I want to make you aware of is this Design Space note. So on piece 1 and piece 5, you see these lines that are coming out. Those are just lines to indicate where you need to replace the line with a score line. So I'm going to show you that in Design Space. But if you have any questions when you open up the file, make sure you look and see if there's a Design Notes file that gives you this information. Okay, so let's close out of that. And in Design Space, now that it's open, it'll come in as a grouped file. So ungroup it. Now you mostly have individual pieces. There are still some that are going to be grouped. I'm going to use this sentiment. I just want the outline. So I'm going to click on the gray one, and you see how it highlights over here, and I'm just going to hide it. Same thing for the individual pieces. And I'm going to hide that. And now I want the gift card flap. So I'm going to take the regular sent back panel piece, click on it and hide it. So now I have the pieces I need to cut. However, I still have these lines popping out. So I'm going to go to Shape, and I need 3 score lines. So I'm just going to click on that 3 times. I'm going to drag this score line down here, and let me zoom in a little bit so that you can see, get a better view of where I am working. Okay, all right. So I'm going to take one design line or one score line, and I'm just going to line it directly with this line. Click on it, use the 2 arrows, drag it down. And now I am keeping, just a quick note, I'm keeping this piece attached, or not attached, but grouped together for the time being while I get these in place. That way, if I bump it or something, you're not going to lose the placement of these lines. Okay, so once I get that lined up, I'm going to use the arrows to draw it down. Now at this point, Get that lined up a little bit better. Okay, so now at this point, I have score line. I have a regular line that's really not going to do much, that we don't want on there. And we have the back piece. So let's click on the back piece, ungroup it at this point. Now click on each line and just delete it. Now we need to highlight the design and the two score lines and attach it. Okay, so now we're done with that piece. Now we still have this piece. Again, it's still grouped because it has a line. So let's move the score line. And again, I just feel it's easier to keep this attached while I'm working with it. That way, if I bump it, if I just accidentally bump it, the line stays where it is. I may need to reposition the score line until I attach it. So now with this, you can either use this arrow to, we need to move it to 90 degrees, or up here. I'm going to simply type in 90 degrees. So let's move it to where we need it to be. Again, use the arrows to fill it across the design. Now we can click on the panel, ungroup it, and then click on the line and delete it. So now one last step, we want to highlight the design or the panel and the score line and click attached. If we don't attach it, it will not put the score line in the proper place. So now we have our file, we have our pieces, and we are ready to cut it and make it on the Cricut. So at this point, I could simply hit make it. And now make sure, I should point this out, if you do not have a scoring tool with your Cricut, you could either turn these into like a drawn line so you know where to draw it. You could do little marks up here to draw on it, and then use a scoring tool. Same thing for the piece on the blue. You could just do a little, just a very small little line to draw on it. Or you can also just delete the line and just score it once it is done cutting. Okay, so now we are ready to cut, and then I'm going to show you how to assemble it. Okay, so now that all the pieces are cut out, we need to remove the middles. And so I have removed the centers for most of it from the sentiment. However, I just wanted to show you a few tips and tricks to make it a little bit easier. So for the little pieces, I hold the whole thing down on the table, put the pointy tool right on the piece, and then gently lift up. So that helps. And I have off to here a side of all of the inside pieces that I believe I do not need, but wanted to make sure once I have it finally assembled, then I will can throw those away. But until then, I'm just going to keep them off to the side. And as you can see, most of these inside letters you could reuse on another card, or you can even put it on the outside. The other thing is, if you have something that's stuck, an X-Acto knife really helps to take that out, just a little cut or two with the X-Acto knife. The other thing is, if you have problems and it just did not cut that well, when you're about ready to cut in Design Space, it'll ask you about the pressure, and it's automatically set to the default. But if you put more pressure on it, that does help, especially if you're not getting good cuts. Okay, so now that it's all cut out, the other thing is, if you flip it around to the back, you can see the little pieces that have still attached that need to be removed, like that little one. The other thing is, you can see there, if you get the little fuzzies, you can see how here it is in the U. You can just take your pointy tool and kind of scrape it away. Same thing as once you have it applied to the card, you can do that too. Okay. All right, so now we have, okay, so we have the sentiment ready. Let's set that aside. We have all the pieces cut. So let's take the blue piece, and you can see where the score line is. Fold it up. You want to make sure it's even. And then take a bone folder and crease it. So you just want to get a good fold. And same thing for the outside of the card. Now I cut this so the textured side of the cardstock would be up. And when you fold it on the crease line, you want to make sure that the top edge is even. The top edge is even, the bottom edge should be even. So you want to make sure you kind of play around with that a little bit to make sure you get a good fold. Let's see, so that one looks good. So now let's do the other side. And again, fold it on the crease. You want to make sure that the top edge is even and the bottom edge is even. Then use the bone folder. When you put the two together, you should have nice even edges. Okay, so now that that's assembled, let's start with the outside of the card. So we have the blue piece that gets centered on here and the solid rectangle piece that will get centered on that flap. So let's start with I'm going to use some Score It tape. And this piece is the trickiest since there's a lot of little angles. One thing I like to do when I'm putting the tape on here, I'm going to move that off so it doesn't move everything, is I like to start at the corners. And that way, if I have a little too much, I can tear it off. Okay, so bring that down to the corner. Fill this one in here. Okay, so now we have that and just a little bit left. Because I have this little extra piece, I'll stick it just in the center there. I just need one more little piece for up here. Okay, those two are going to overlap, so I'm just going to start taking off the backing. You want to make sure nothing overhangs on the outside. Okay, so just finish taking these off. And now, and if one side doesn't come up, just go to the other side. Okay. So now, lay it whichever angle feels better for you to work on, but you want an even border around the top and the edges. And before I really press it down, I want to make sure. So there's going to be a little bit bigger border on the bottom. So let's just adjust that slightly, get the front edge. Okay, that looks better. And now we can put on the cap. And I did it with the textured side up. And with the front of it, you want to make sure that you do have quite a bit of adhesive on there so that nothing does get lodged when you're putting it in and out of the envelope. Okay. Okay, so now that I have the adhesive on, center it. Okay, and now the tassel. And you can use the black or whatever you use for the outside of the card as a guide for it. And I'm just going to use an adhesive pen. Make sure I get a good amount of adhesive on there. And press it down well. Okay. So almost done with the front. So now take the blue. Make sure, since I did the textured side on the other one, on the other panel, that I'm going to do the textured side on this panel as well. And this side should go faster since it does not have all those angles. That's a little close, so I'm just going to stick that. Just going to throw that extra piece away. All right, so now that we have the adhesive on, so again, I'm going to put this to the side. Center it on the panel. Fold it close before I press it down to make sure that everything is lined up. Okay, so the outside is done. You could add, like, you could stamp a little sentiment, congrats grad, or, you know, put a little something on the front. But it is not necessary. Now let's finish off the inside with, I'm going to use a thinner tape for this flap, to keep this flap or to keep the flap held in place. Get one more piece for over here. So I make sure when I fold it up, none of the tape overhangs. Okay. Okay, so now that I have the flap done, let's work on attaching this. And you don't want tape to go over, so I'm just going to readjust that. To fix my tapes. Okay, and now one more piece for the side. Then I am just going to tear off a small piece just to stick in the center, since this is a wide piece. Don't want any bulging going on in the center of it. So now remove the backings. Okay, and now take the card, and you can see where it's folded up. So you just want to get it good and centered. Okay, press that down. Now we have the sentiment. So I do have another fuzzy piece in there. I'm going to Just with the X-Acto knife, just lightly get those. Okay, so now for this, again, I'm using the glue pen. And you just want to make sure all of the outlines get coated. Now this would be something you could run through the Xyron. But you would also have a lot of cleanup of that extra adhesive. So that is an option. But I think this is just as quick between this and the cleanup time. Okay, so now that that's covered, I want it a little bit higher so that if I put a gift card in there or money, it's not going to interfere with it. And start pressing it down, and you can see where you didn't get much adhesive. So then you can take the adhesive pen and lightly go over those areas again. Press it down as well. To do the C again. Then I'm going to take the pointy tool and just do a little cleanup. If you can see, there's some right here on the C. Just take the pointy tool, you can kind of just scrape it. Same thing up there. Then down here with the U. So if you see any of those little spaces that look out of the little fuzzies from the paper, the fibers, just kind of scrape them away. Either the X-Acto knife, don't put much pressure on the X-Acto knife, or a pointy tool can help get rid of those. Okay, so now let's do the insides of the letters. Okay, so we have the inside of the D. And these, just eyeball it. Press it down well. Then we have the A. And that A has a little bit of a fuzz to clean up. And then down at the bottom, we have the tiny A. And now this A, there is the center part cut out, but it is so tiny that it really doesn't cut. So again, you can take the pointy tool and don't do it against your finger. You just pop a little hole to make it a little bit more pronounced. Okay, so that is the A. You can also use this to help position it, especially when it gets stuck to your finger. Okay, and then we have the two O's. And let's get those in place. And there you have it. Graduation card opens up. It's a gatefold. Graduation card opens up, and you have congratulations and a pocket to put either cash or a gift card. Perfect for your grad. Thank you for watching.